Oh, hello and what's up, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting time of Wrestling with Tragedy. And once again, I'm joined by two of my best friends in this fucking world, Mr. Kevin Rodriguez, aka Juan Strowman. Get those tacos, num num num, and the kingpin himself, Mr. Angel Medina. Gentlemen, before we get into it and before we get into the formalities, let's just take a quick pause for the cause and throw up some thanks for our very, very dear sponsors. First up is A-Rock Designs on Facebook. Now, A-Rock Designs are the company that create all these awesome wrestling cups. This is my CM Punk custom cup that I just got from them. If you're wanting to get any sort of custom cup, tumbler, t-shirt, hoodie, keychain, or any of that good shit, hit up Ashley Rodriguez from A-Rock Designs on Facebook, and she will take care of you and give you a magnificent product at a great price. Next is Mayan Belts. If you're a wrestling fan, and every single wrestling fan, whatever they want is championship belts that are like but the ones I've got behind me and like the ones Kevin's got behind him. Every wrestling fan wants to get a belt. And if you want to get a belt, you need to go to the best. And Mayan Belts are the best championship belt makers in the world. If you want a custom championship belt or a replica championship belt, head over to Mayan Belts and hit up our friend on Facebook, as they're seen as Eddie and Ira Williams. Also, if you want some amazing t-shirts, head over to Pro Wrestling Tees / Wrestling Review Society or Pro Wrestling Tees / MWA World for our awesome shirts that we have available. But today, guys, once again, we are joined by two of my closest friends in this fucking world, Kevin and Angel. Guys, how are we today?
I'm freaking tired, and somebody looks like he just got fingered in the ass because just full of excitement today, Pierce.
Man, that's one way to put it, Angel. But Kevin, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. We're going to be covering a topic today that, if you're a diehard fan, you kind of knew somewhat about this topic. Recently, with season 1 of Dark Side of the Ring, they kind of hit on it. And we're just going to give our thoughts and opinions on it. We're going to be talking about the one, the only Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth, will you marry me?
Oh, yeah.
So, I've always found it very interesting with the Miss Elizabeth case, because here you have this homegrown, quiet, kind of shy type woman, and then she gets put into the limelight, something that she's really not used to. She has all these eyes on her, and with Miss Elizabeth, we really saw how much fame and how much money can change a person from where they came from, where they grew up, and then when you throw them into that new kind of lifestyle, how much it could really shock your system and really change the way you look at the world.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Miss Elizabeth, I mean, when I was a kid, she didn't really talk much, and I didn't really think she was smart. I'm being honest, I mean, she was very behind the scenes with Randy. But, the woman was pretty smart, man. She went to the University of Kentucky and got a degree in communications, so she knew her stuff, man. She was a pretty smart woman.
Yeah, look, I definitely think that she was, and you look at the relationship that she had with Randy Orton, and not Randy Orton, Randy Savage.
New wrestling tragedies coming out here.
Randy Savage, and you look at the Macho Man, who was such an intense individual, and for all counts, from all reports, what you saw on the screen is pretty much what he was like. A very intense, a very in-your-face sort of person. And then there was Miss
paranoid person.
Yeah, and then then he was married to someone like Miss Elizabeth, who is very timid, very quiet, the exact opposite. Now, opposites attract, obviously, but from what my understanding and from the stories that I've heard about this is Randy basically didn't want his wife hanging around any of their boys. She didn't want her anything to do with it. He kept her very sheltered. And in a world of professional wrestling, can someone be on camera and really be sheltered as much as he was hoping that she would be? Or was he kind of like in a bit of a fantasy land himself?
But I don't necessarily think it was just about Miss Elizabeth. Like I seriously, genuinely feel like he was one of those the world's out to get me kind of thing. Like he was super paranoid about a lot of stuff. And one of the things that my mind always goes back to when you talk about Randy Savage, not Randy Orton,
I apologize.
is
Slipping the tongue.
is the Jake the Snake story. When he was going up against Jake the Snake and Jake was going to have the snake bite him, there's numerous stories from Jake where Randy goes up to him and he goes, "Hey man, is this snake fixed?" And Jake just goes, "Dude, it's a fucking cobra. Of course it's fixed." And he goes, "Well, how about it bites you first?" And Jake reluctantly, very angrily, rolled up his pant leg, let the snake bite him, and Randy told him straight out, he's like, "Okay, don't take no pills, no serums, no antidotes, no nothing. We're just gonna sit here and wait." And it really pissed Jake off. And Jake said when they got into the ring, he paintbrushed the shit out of that snake just to piss it off. So I think Randy was just one of those really, really paranoid individuals. But to answer your original question, when you have your fiance, your wife, your girlfriend, as we've heard from Angel many times, when you have her around the boys like that, I mean, how many times do we have to see this exact same story play out? Kevin Sullivan and Woman. You've got Edge, Lita, and Matt Hardy. You've got Jarrett. You've got any. I honestly think more times than not, you see people split up from being around the locker room than you do actually staying together.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, but they originally started seeing each other when she was a TV announcer and was International Championship Wrestling.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's what she
to-
originally started as a TV announcer.
Just
But
to premise it, Miss Elizabeth was born November 19th, 1960, and she passed away May 1st of 2003.
42 years of age, man. That is a very, very young person. That is a young age for someone to pass away, and I think she just, to me, from all the research that I've done on this, she just, by the look of it, just had a bad choice in men. You know what I mean? Like she had a real, like, I don't know whether it's like, her father left at a long age and she was searching for that male dominant figure in her life, that almost like a father figure sort of type man to be her husband or to be her partner. But you look at the relationship that she had with Randy, where it's like, very controlling, but and you also look at that angle that where Hulk Hogan and Randy Orton, the mega powers, when they sort of did that
Randy
split.
Savage, not Randy Orton.
Sorry, I'm not having enough coffee today. But when Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan did that split, and he was like, "Oh, look at your hand touched her for a couple seconds too long. Yeah, like that's a little bit fucked up." And was that life imitating, art imitating life? Was that how he really was? Was he over paranoid about the way people looked at his wife? And you look at some of the stories of, like, he made sure underneath her dress she was taped up. She was, does she go over the middle rope? Does she go under the middle rope? All these things, because he really didn't want his wife to be exposed on national television, which I can understand. But to what point do you really drive that home?
Well, I think there's a lot of things. I think there's a lot of things to break down here. And Angel, I didn't mean to cut you off, but a few things that I think we need to break down is, one, I feel like his heart was in the right place, because, like you said, you don't want your wife to be exposed on national TV. You want her to maintain her elegance, her innocence, and not become a laughing stock when she hits all the blooper reels or makes her way to Botchamania or whatever the case may be. So I think he really wanted to protect that image, but at the same time, what happened in Randy's life to make him that way? Because as we hear so many times in pro wrestling, the best angles and the best storylines, which we all can agree, the Miss Elizabeth, the Mega Powers, it was one of the best storylines ever. and it was able to run so long because it was so real to so many people. But they say the best storylines have hints of reality in it. So I don't think it would have worked. I don't think if Randy wasn't actually like that behind the scenes, I don't think that storyline would have worked as well. So because of the fact that it did work as well as it did, I fully believe that's exactly how he had to be in real life.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that, Kev. Like Savage was, a very, very, in your face individual. And you look at the character of the Macho Man was always intense, always, always on that edge, always that sort of real aggressive type psychotic lunatic. And, how much of that was the real Randy Savage?
Yeah, I totally got you. I mean, the reason this is the thing, man. When you're in the business in pro wrestling, I mean, a lot of relationships don't make it. I mean, when you're dating with the talent, it's hard to be with your girlfriend or wife or whatever, and she's in the locker room, guys are walking around naked, guys are hitting on your wife, and stuff like that. I mean, it's just the norm. Not the norm, but I mean, back in my time, you just did not bring your woman in the locker room. Is just, for me, it was taboo because it caused problems, and it's hard to have a relationship with somebody in the business because guys are just talking to her in the corner, and Macho Man could see it like, why is he, why are they talking, or, because he's thinking all the boys that are trying to smash his wife, which is 9 out of 10 is true, because if you bring your wife in the locker room, they're gonna go, oh, he doesn't respect her. He brings her in the locker room.
But if she's in the business,
oh well, no. But it's just that
women's locker room.
Yeah, that's just.
But back then, was there a women's locker room?
No,
make one.
No. Basically, like it was like, let's say like it was Francine, Dawn Marie. Yeah, they changed somewhere else, but at a certain point, everybody was in the same locker room at the ECW arena. There was no separate like location. And I remember, true story. I remember one time, my friend's girlfriend, which I didn't really like, came into the locker room, following him, and I'm just cursing and doing my own thing. And she's like, don't you have any respect, for a woman coming in, in the locker room and you're talking like that? And, I was like, bitch, this is my locker room. Don't ever fucking and she was a stripper, and I just told her, I said, do I ever go to your strip club and tell you how to twerk? You don't come into my wrestling locker room and tell me how to act. Like, get the fuck out of here. And see, my wrestling mentality is different when I'm in the locker room because that's my world. So there's a lot of vulgarity and stuff like that. So maybe he was just like, he was shielding her from that type of stuff as well, which is hard.
Let's go ahead and just break into a few facts about the early stages of Randy and Miss Elizabeth. So I understand Randy was a very overbearing, overprotective type person. And Piers, you brought up earlier that maybe she just had a bad taste or a certain taste of men. One person that comes to mind is, Vicky Guerrero. Vicky Guerrero was very open about Eddie's drug problems, about Eddie's alcoholism, about the way he used to party. Another one being Shawn Michaels and his wife.
Another one.
I know Shawn Michaels' wife wasn't in the business, but what I'm getting at is you have women who have surrounded themselves with people who partake in these extracurricular activities, but they're still strong enough not to do it themselves. So I don't necessarily think we can blame it on just the men that she was with, but maybe there's a method to Randy's madness because
no pun intended.
Elizabeth didn't really get involved in this other world while she was with Randy. So yes, he may have dictated she's got to be taped up, her clothes can't, there can be no wardrobe malfunction, you can't touch her hand too long, you can't do this, you can't do that. But at the same time, even though all of this was going on, she was never put into the position she was where she ultimately lost her life. So maybe, just maybe, there was a method to Randy's madness.
You know, I like the time when the Mega Powers broke up and Hogan had Elizabeth on the shoulder and Macho Man cut the promo. You know, that to me that was the most. It was a badass promo. You know how because they really used his jealousy, they really used his paranoia to really enhance that promo because he was sweating like he just sweat at the end, like he was just pissed. But I mean, I don't know if that was. I mean, he was digging deep into his emotions and bringing out like who he is. But it was still an awesome promo, man, because they really knew how to use his paranoia to that.
But could Macho Man have actually been the ultimate fucking worker and just like, you know what I mean, behind closed doors? You know what I mean? He might have been working everybody in the business thinking that's how he is. Could he have been the ultimate fucking worker? You know what I mean? Like, could he have worked the boys? Could he have worked the management?
No, I mean, I heard a lot of things. I mean, like I said, I didn't know.
I don't
Randy.
think anybody can work that good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know Randy, but I heard stories. He was just very paranoid, controlling. I mean, look how he controlled the matches. I mean, not controlled, but like going over and over and over, and coming back and going on over and over. I mean, Ricky Steamboat even said, you know, in regards to WrestleMania 3, they were just like, he was just so detail oriented about how the match was going to go. And he goes, yeah, Randy, I got it, you know. But he just kept repeating the matches, you know, but which is fine. I mean, that's understandable. But you know, after a while, you know, I bet it was like, dude, I got it. I know, duck the elbow, you know. You
it would wear on you after a while.
Yeah, after a while. But I mean, but he was a perfectionist. He wanted to have an excellent match, and he went over the match from beginning to end, you know. But anyway. But Elizabeth, I mean, the one thing I'm trying to understand is like what timeline did she finally started to do? You know, get into the pills when she was getting stressed out. What was going on in her life that just made that turn into the dark side?
I mean, for all I've found, and like I said, it's hard not knowing a person and knowing when they started getting into certain things of their life. But you know, from my understanding, it was when she was around Lex Luger, and you know, and that's the thing. It was you know, Eric Bischoff has gone on record and stated that you know he felt. You know, he hated Lex for the simple fact is he could see him pretty much destroying Elizabeth. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, he didn't put it like, I don't know, like, he didn't put a gun to her head and force her to take pills. But, you know what I mean? Like, she was, what, 110-pound woman, and she was taking the same amount of pills as a 300-pound fucking dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your body ain't going to keep up like that.
Sorry, another person who was very vocal about it and actually tried to contact Randy to help her after the split when Randy and Miss Elizabeth initially split up and she found herself getting involved with Lex was Linda Hogan. Linda Hogan tried her damnedest, in her own words, through her own admission. So her damnedest might not be ours. Who knows how hard she actually tried, but she's gone on record. She's been on the Dark Side of the Ring episode saying that, you know, I tried to get a hold of Randy. I tried to get him to step in to come get her back, and at that point, you know, Randy just didn't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, like I said, when she was, I mean, she was just on painkillers. I mean, I don't even understand what kind of pain she was in to be popping pain pills and vodka and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I've been through so much pain. I mean, there was times I popped a couple pills here and there, but I was not addicted to pain pills. Like,
could she have taken them just to get the high? You know, like I've never really taken pain pills. Do they give you some sort of euphoric feeling?
The only one that ever gave me euphoric feeling was Somas. I was not once in a while I took Somas to dude, I was hurting, man. I mean, those matches were brutal on my body, and then when you're at the bar and you're hanging out with a couple of friends, they they give you a couple and you take that in a beer and you feel like you're drunk. You feel like you're like, yeah, you feel mellow, but there was other times I took some Vicodins and some Percocets and I was just like, man, this shit fucked up my stomach, so
So Angel, let me ask you this, Angel. Being involved in the business like you were, and being around, people in the locker room and people bringing their spouses, girlfriends, whatever. There's been a lot of people who have said, Eric Bischoff, Linda Hogan, just to name a few.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people that have come forward and said, we tried to step in. We've seen the path she was going down after she split up with Randy, when she got with Lex. How hard is it for you to actually step in and try to help somebody in a situation like that?
It's very hard because I never got involved in people's personal life outside the ring. I mean, we were friends, but I mean, there was tons of guys and females that used to pop pills and stuff. I mean, you're grown, man. I mean, but that was just part of the locker room environment, I mean, gimmicks were around all the time. I mean, I knew people crushing Oxycontins and sniffing it, breaking the time release.
Hillbilly heroin.
Hillbilly heroin, baby. Just sniffing away, man. Again, I never had an addictive personality, and one of my fears was at the time was I just didn't want to get addicted to anything and be one of the wrestlers that passed away. So I was really, really careful of not getting.
You didn't want to be on an episode of Wrestling with Tragedy.
Damn fucking right. And Randy Orton will be sitting in this chair, and so
I'm sorry, guys.
But that's the thing. I mean, that was my fear because at the time, a lot of my friends passed away from overdose. So I was like, I am not going to get hooked on any type of narcotics. So I never got into like cocaine or any type of anything. I just, like I said, once in a while, I popped the pill. Hey, kid, what's wrong? Oh, I don't feel good. My back hurts. Here, take this. And, and that was like passed around like candy. And sometimes you feel like you had to take it as part of the boys, you want to fit in.
But that's the thing, right? You said like some of these pills that you take, like Somas, and you have with alcohol and some of these pain medications, they make you just feel relaxed.
Yeah.
All right. Instead of taking a pharmaceutical drug, why wouldn't you just smoke a joint, which would essentially give you the similar sort of feeling?
I don't smoke
like,
weed.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I understand that, but you know what I'm saying? Like something that isn't going to be as damaging, like smoking a joint, which is going to give you a very similar feeling than
they have
putting something. Yeah, but why step it up? Is it because your body just becomes too used to smoking weed that you just like, fuck, you're just not doing it for me anymore? I got to fucking ante this bitch up.
Dude, it's just part of the culture at the time. I mean, like I said, there was guys smoking weed. RVD smoked weed, but I don't know he pop pills. I mean, but let's say, you smoking weed, popping pills, not him. I'm just saying, drinking a beer, you get fucked up. I mean, there was guys that were like taking Somas, 20 Somas. You're sitting there talking to them, in the bar, and they just popping two, drinking, sipping on their beer. 10 minutes later, pop another one, take a sip of the beer. By the time they're just sitting there drooling on themselves, and you have to take them and make sure they don't choke on their own vomit and make sure they're laying on their side and just leave the room. I mean, we did that many times, I mean, it's just,
to go to Pierce's question, and Angel, I'm sure you've dealt with this a lot as well, but I see it all the time. In law enforcement, like it always puzzled me whenever I would run into somebody who's doing heroin or doing cocaine or whatever the case may be, and I asked that very same question, like when you're trying to show empathy for someone and you're trying to talk to somebody. I've always asked the same question. I'm like, how did we get here to this point right now? And it always starts out with, I started drinking at a young age, and then that wasn't doing it for me anymore. I got involved in marijuana. That wasn't doing it for me anymore. I started doing these pills, and it's just the escalation of addiction.
Yeah.
Like once you feel like it's not doing it for you anymore, you're constantly chasing that feeling of something to give you that same feeling, but you're not getting it from drug A anymore. You got to go to drug B, C, and D.
Well, it's funny. I was gonna piggyback. Oh, sorry, Pierce. Let me just bring up the story.
Okay.
Let me bring up the story that just really sparked something. When I was wrestling for IWA in Puerto Rico, we used to stay in the by the San Juan Hotel, and we stayed on East La Verde Avenue, and we used to go to this sporting the supplement store. They used to sell like workout gear, protein powder, steroids behind the counter on the down low. Across the street, there used to be a a pharmacy that sold, pills over the counter. Well, Test, and God rest his soul, rest in peace. But he came down to work the show, and we were hanging out. And again, we were buddies because I just met him at that time, and we were going to go down, and I needed to get some gimmicks, get on the gas, and so I wanted to go to that the supplement store. But across the street was the pharmacy, so he wanted to hook up on some somas. So we go, I got my gimmicks, and then we walked him across the street to the pharmacy to buy somas over the counter because you can buy them over the counter. That dude, when he got a jar about this big of somas for whatever price it was, and he hugged it. He was like, "Oh my God, I'm so excited." He was excited. He's like, "Oh my God, that's how." I mean, again, from seeing it from the outside, I'm like, Jesus Christ, is he really that excited because he has over 600, 800 somas, and he's, going to pop them and stuff like that. I mean, that's how addiction is crazy, because I was just like shocked. Like, is he really getting excited because he has a jar full of somas? I don't get it. But again, that was just me at the time thinking like, that's weird. And look what happened to him. I mean, he thrived off that.
Yeah. But getting back onto Miss Elizabeth.
Yeah, let's get back on track.
Yeah, like with her story and everything that she went through, and she, from what my understanding was, when she was in the WWF at the time with Randy Orton, she slowly just got over being on the road.
Randy Savage.
Fuck. All right, sorry. Randy Savage. Did I say it again?
Yep.
Fuck me. There you go. All right. She got tired of being on the road with Randy Savage, not Orton. So, she got tired of being on the road. She got tired of living that lifestyle. Could she have been, taking the gimmicks back then? Could she have been doing it back then? And,
I don't think she was. I from all the angles this has been presented, I don't think her drug problem really kicked off until she left Macho Man and got with Lex. And, we sat here and we talked about, Eric Bischoff and Linda Hogan and everybody who tried to reach out. Another group of people who tried to reach out to Macho Man were Elizabeth's parents. When she got involved with Lex, and they kind of noticed the phone calls were going a different way, and she was acting like a different person, and she wasn't the same person that they recognized. And for you to recognize that through the phone, there's got to be some drastic changes in your life. And it's been documented that, Elizabeth's parents would call Macho Man and be like, please save our daughter. You have to save our daughter. And at that point, he was already over it. And, I go back to this saying a lot because it fits in so many different aspects of life. But before my grandfather died, he used to tell me all the time. It's like, Kevin, you can spend all day trying to get a horse to the river. If it ain't thirsty, it ain't going to friggin' drink. So even if he would have went down there and physically, because I believe she was in Florida at the time, if he would have went down there, grabbed her, packed her stuff, and took her back home to wherever, she just would have went back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, she's like, she was a grown adult. She, again, you can only help somebody who wants to help. I mean, like I said, you could take them, you can move them from a different location, but they're going to go back to the original source. I mean, she would have gone back, in my opinion. I mean, it's just sad that, Elizabeth, I mean, like I said, she was beloved by many. She had, all the fans worshipped her, and stuff like that. It's just hooking up with Lex Luger. I mean, the guy at the time, man, he had some serious demons, and I heard that he was very abusive. So maybe she was afraid to leave him because he was all jacked up and stuff like that. I mean, he was even pulled over with a handgun, a 9mm in the car, at one point, So I mean, he was crazy. Now he's all religious and stuff and skinny. He looks like the creature from Pumpkinhead, but it's just weird. He's so swollen now. He's all skinny, just frail. So it's just I mean,
but is that he was jacked up on the gear, and you could definitely see that with him, and you've seen the deterioration of him over time, and that's definitely got to be from the steroid abuse and all the other sort of shit that he was pumping. But the thing is, when you listen to that 911 call when he called for Elizabeth, and you could hear that panic in his voice, but also like, both of you guys are, Angel, you're a former police officer. Kevin, you're a current police officer. And I'm in incident management, where we're used to seeing people in that emergency where things are going really, really pear-shaped when they're in that sort of situation. He did not sound like, obviously you're not going to be in sound mind. No one is. But there was
he
something
didn't really sound concerned at all.
He did sound concerned, but to me, he sounded like someone who was heavily under the influence.
Well, as I'm looking here, I mean, I'm back in on April 19th of 2003. I mean, they were involved in a domestic dispute down in the townhouse in Marietta, Georgia, down in Cobb County, where she had two bruised eyes, a bump on her head, and a cut on her lip. So, I mean, Luger was charged with a misdemeanor of battery and released with a $2,000 bond. Yeah, so he was lumping her up from the giddy up, and I mean,
let me ask you guys this: do you blame Lex Luger for her drug addictions?
I don't blame him for the drug addictions, but I think he was an enabler of the drug
contributor.
And he was a contributor. Yeah. I think everyone has a choice. And I think you and I, Kevin, we've had this conversation before about addiction. I think that, you have your opinion, I have mine. I do think it can be an illness to some degree, but I also think that it's up to that person how they control that. You know what I mean? Like, there's people that have mental illnesses, but there's people that control that by medication, by counseling, and everything like that. If you have a substance issue and an addiction issue, that's the person that really needs to be able to manage that. And to be honest, by the sound of it, she just didn't want to deal with it. She just wanted to escape from reality. She didn't want to she didn't want to be realistic in the world. She didn't want to have a reality-filled world. She had a tumultuous relationship with Randy Savage. And then, she found herself in another relationship with someone who was probably just as, I'm not saying Randy Savage was abusive, but who knows what happened behind closed doors. But from, all accounts, Lex Luger was definitely not the man of her dreams and definitely not the guy that her savior at all.
Well, and that's the thing I was really trying to get at, was we really can't blame any one particular person for another person's actions. Enabling, yes, I would 1000% agree. But you really can't blame Lex Luger for the decisions that Elizabeth made. Now you bring up addiction and stuff like that, and I'll go ahead and say these are just my personal opinions. I believe addiction is a choice, not a disease. I understand that a young person gets injured, they're prescribed painkillers, they get this form of dependency on them. I get all that kind of stuff, okay? I do, and I'm not insensitive to that kind of thinking or that kind of way of life when you're exposed to these drugs and you're being told you need them. But at the same time, do you know how many police officers I've seen do undercover operations where they go into the drug world, and what's every drug dealer's biggest thing? Hey, do some of this right now so I know you're not a narc. And they go get that. First off, they let the proper channels know, and they're like, hey, I've been exposed, this is what happened, and then they go and they get the help. I understand I'm talking about a police officer here, but still, when you feel yourself having that sense of dependency, go get help. Ask for help. Do whatever you got to do to get clean. And I know, look, for all the viewers watching, we love you. We can't thank you enough for watching this show and making this show as successful as it's become. Shout out to the Vince Russo Network. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Thank you for giving us this platform. I don't mean to offend anybody. These are just my viewpoints. Addiction's a choice.
Well,
But
yeah,
also,
I mean, but the thing is that
sorry.
no, it's just that, like I said, I mean, in the wrestling world, in any sports world, football, baseball, I mean, during the times in the 90s, drugs were just going around the locker room to like it was candy. And the thing is that, you know, if you wanted to continue, the problem with professional wrestling is that you didn't want to lose your spot. And if you were hurt, you needed to numb yourself to continue to perform. Even if Paul Heyman or whatever promoter will tell you like, no, you're good. Don't worry about it. You're not going to lose your spot. You still be like, yeah, whatever. You know, I got to perform. I mean, through my Flaming Tables match, I mean, I got burned to a crisp, and Balls Mahoney came up to me and says, "Hey, you all right?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm in so much pain. Here, take this." Didn't do shit for me because I was still in pain, but
Take another couple.
Yeah, he gave me, I think, a couple of Vicodins, and I took two of them, and still I was still in pain. But like I said, but like anybody, be like, okay, let me take two more. Let me take two more to try to numb yourself from the pain so you can perform. But again, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying at the time that's what I was exposed to, and that was the normal routine of the locker room. You know, pills and drugs and pills. Yeah, cocaine's a hell of a drug. But yeah, I mean, I'm not making light of it. It's just that, but that was what was my world. You know, I mean, again, I didn't do anything crazy, but it was just available. And everywhere I turned, everywhere I looked up and down, it was there if I needed it.
Yeah, man. And you know what? I just wanted to touch on a comment that Kevin made earlier about, you know, when he goes and he's seeing people that have, you know, heroin addictions and problems like this, and they're starting off with alcohol, then it goes to weed, and that wasn't doing it. You know, I went through a stage in my life where I was a pretty heavy marijuana smoker.
You know that stunts your growth, right?
What are you talking about?
Probably why it probably has a lot to do with why he said Randy Orton 32 times in this episode.
I am completely sober, bro. The only drug I'm having tonight is coffee, but
that's liquid heroin.
But the thing is, during the time where I was a heavy marijuana smoker, there was nothing that triggered in my brain to went, hey, this isn't doing it for me anymore. I got to step this shit up. But the only thing I probably did was smoke more of it to try and get stoned. But I never went, you know what, I need something more to give me that feeling. I need to amp that up. So, you know, while I think that's true in a lot of cases, I think that, you know, it's not true in all cases is what I'm saying. But I think, you know, with Miss Elizabeth and, you know, the pills that she was taking and being like, you know, how much did she weigh? Like 100 pounds?
She was 115 pounds.
All right, 115 pounds.
Supposedly.
And Lex Luger was what, 320? Let's be like,
he's taking shits bigger than that.
Exactly. And if she's taking the same amount as he's putting in, it doesn't matter like how, like, you know, if your body gets used to it or not. That's like you know what I mean? Like that's like not even like, it's just so much smaller than him. Her body would not have been able to handle it. And by the way she died is her body just gave in. Her body just gave in to what she was taking and the amounts that she was taking it. And like when the police came in and inspected the house, man, they found a fucking gang of shit in that house.
Well, just to give you exact, his weight was he was billed at 275, 6'6", 275. So yeah, he was a big boy.
So me, I'm 6'5", 285.
No.
Yeah. And that's, dude, like, you know, I'm probably 185 pounds and 5'6". You know what I mean? Like, if we were sitting there drinking beers, Kevin, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be able to put away a lot more than I'm going to be able to do. You know what I mean? If we're sitting there, for example, taking somas or whatever it is, your body is going to be able your body's going to be able to absorb more of that shit than me. You know, the only difference, you know, it would be is if you're not used to drinking alcohol and I drink every day, then it may be a little bit different, but even then.
I just think, you know, going back to what I said in the beginning, when she lived that that sheltered life, when she lived that sheltered life, and she got with Randy, and every decision was made for her, or at least it seemed to be that way. I think it was you see this a lot with teenagers who get pregnant at a very young age. They're forced to grow up. They're forced to be an adult, and when the time eventually comes, it's like, oh, I missed out on my youth. Let me go ahead and start reliving it now that I'm 30. And they jump into a lifestyle that it's best left alone. And I think that's exactly what happened with this. She lived that sheltered life. She was with Randy, who made every decision for her. When she found herself with Lex, she was able to kind of try new things and experiment with new things, and it ultimately led to her life ending. One thing about Miss Elizabeth is one of her accomplishments. She was actually Woman of the Year in 1987. Did you know that?
No,
I didn't know that.
She was WWF at the time, Woman of the Year. She got the Slammy Award for Woman of the Year in 1987. I believe it was 87. But she was on such a high pedestal. She was America's sweetheart. She was the innocent
girl next door type.
Exactly. And like I said, the sheltered life, the relationship with Randy, and then you throw her into this partying lifestyle, this heavily drug influenced lifestyle where literally at the snap of her finger she had any drug she can possibly want or try, or whatever the case may be. So I think it had a lot to do with the fact that now she's exposed to this different style of life that she probably didn't even know. She knew it existed, but you guys know the metaphor I'm using.
Yeah.
She wasn't even aware of this side of the world. She stayed in this little box, in this little corner, kept to herself, and never experienced any of this over here. And then she split from Randy, and she's like, oh, well, let me go check this out. And she didn't know how to handle it. She didn't know exactly what she was getting into. And by the time she looked back and said, I'm in too deep, she was in way too deep.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I'm sorry, Pierce. I was just gonna say, and fans out there, the reason I keep turning this way is because I'm looking at the research on my computer. So sorry if you're wondering why I'm being distracted.
Angel's got the mega setup. He's got like 4 screens in front of him.
I got everything, man. I'm got everything.
And by the way, Angel, hashtag stop cutting me off.
He's our analytics and statistician. So
I was just trying to look at what the collaboration between Randy Orton and Randy Savage. But anyway, as I was doing some research here, the thing was that on when you were talking about the drugs that were found in Lex Luger's residence, the thing was on May 1st, 2003, when they were sharing that townhouse in Marietta, after mixing pills of hydrocodone and Xanax with vodka. Jesus. That's what she was taking, and then Luger was arrested. It was anabolic steroids, oxycodone, synthetic growth hormone, testosterone, and Xanax, and was charged with 13 felonies. 13 felonies counts of drug possession. Sorry, it's still too early. So yeah, that dude had a lot of drugs and a lot of steroids in his
13 felonies. Like let's not just brush that aside, because that's some pretty heavy shit. 13 the average person goes through their entire life without getting a single felony. On average.
Did he do any in prison time for that shit?
Well, he was released for $27,000 bail, which that's weird. But I don't know if he was.
He was a megastar in the 80s. Do you really think he went to prison?
No.
Well, right here it said that no, that was in December 5th. He only spent 1 month of time served. So, but I don't see any.
I know this is completely off topic, but just while you said that, even current day, let's get rid of that time frame. Even current day, the raid they did on Jeff Hardy's home, where they found copious amounts of pills and drugs, he did 28 days in a county jail. Your average person is sent up the river for 10 plus years.
Well, this is what I just found out right here. It says Luca pleaded guilty to the charges and was fined $1,000 and sentenced to 5 years of probation in order to undergo periodic drug testing.
He got $1,000 fine in a world where he's buying $50,000 suits. Come on now.
That is a fucking bullshit. Like, he had copious amounts of drugs in his house. He had a fucking dead body in his house, and this guy, fucking really?
And I'm not saying throw this man to the wolves to set an example, but what I'm saying is there's one standard. When you sit here and you take these pro wrestlers, NBA players, NFL players, UFC fighters, singers, actors, it does not matter. When you take these people with these serious drug problems and they're getting involved in this kind of stuff, it is on the judges, the justice system, and I'm not trying to go over into left field, but when you have these people who do this kind of stuff and their punishment is a slap on the wrist, something that literally means nothing to them. Angel, $1,000 to you, Piers, $1,000 to you, $1,000 to me. That's a lot of money. But when people are buying $50,000 suits and more cars than they'll drive in a lifetime, and you give them $1,000 fine, you should be ashamed of yourself. Because if you give somebody an actual punishment, the same punishment that I would get, the same punishment Piers would get, they might actually take a look at their life and say, "Hey, something's got to change."
Well, come on.
You give them, in reality, it's a $1 fine. When you give them a fine of something so small, and then you say, "Okay, go ahead, bye. You paid your debt to society." No, the hell you didn't. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, come on, guys. Hey, hold on.
Now stop fucking cutting me off.
I don't mean to cut you off, but Piers, he did find God. You got to give him that. Come on, Kevin. God. Come on, guys.
Look, I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not going to comment on that because you know what the thing is. Look, everyone finds God when they think they're going to go to jail. Everyone finds God when they think shit's hit the fan and this is going to be the saving grace for him. And I think people use that for a cop out. If he's found religion, then great for him, and I hope it's worked, and I hope he's changed his life around. But let's be real, guys. As soon as the celebrity finds themselves in a little bit of trouble, you see it time and time again.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you know, and look, I know you're a religious man, Kevin, and that's not an attack on people that believe in God. That's an attack on people who use it as a fucking way to escape their punishment.
No, I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah,
I am a religious man, and I do believe in what I choose to believe in. This isn't the show to get into religion and politics and stuff like that. But you do bring up a very good point, and that is it's so easy. And Angel, I know you've seen this just as much as I have. You know, somebody will come from a party where they're doing gimmicks and they're slamming alcohol and all this other stuff. Those blue lights come on behind them and they find themselves in bracelets. And what's the first thing they say in the back of your car? "Oh, God, please help me. God, I need this, I need that." Well, it's like Piers said. When you're faced with this jail time or this prison time or whatever the case may be, everybody finds religion. But when you're sitting there riding high, you got a ton of money in the bank account. You got a whole pile of drugs right here next to you. You got women coming and going. Where's your religion there, buddy?
Yeah, you feel untouchable when you got that money.
Don't throw that cop out in my face, okay? And I understand some people find it later in life than others, but I fully agree. Mine and Piers' views are very different. We're still really good friends. We don't have to have the same opinions, and that's the thing I can't stress enough about this show for everybody watching. You don't have to agree with us. That is okay. You can form your own opinion. We are just bringing you what we think and our opinions based on the facts that we've looked up and our life experiences. And I completely lost where I was going with that.
You know what? Well, I want to make a mention where you said before, where you know it's like if someone, you know, a young lady gets pregnant as a teenager, and then, you know, pretty much puts her life on hold, and then she gets to be 30, the child's a little bit older, and then she starts, you know, partying like she's 21. Mm-hmm. The thing is, what I feel with Miss Elizabeth, and this is my personal opinion, and you guys don't have to agree, and the viewers don't have to agree. We talked about before Randy being an obsessive compulsive person, someone who was very much in charge of her. This is what I believe. He kept her from that. He kept her away from that. Soon as she was done with Randy, and she was now in a different world, in a different element where she wasn't around someone who was protecting her or shielding her from that, she went apeshit. And ultimately, it cost her life.
Yeah, and like the thing is, we could sit here and we could knock Randy all day long, and I want to make this very clear.
This is not a bash of him.
I don't believe women are property. I don't believe men should make women's decisions for them. I think everybody's entitled to make their own decisions. However, Angel, I'm sure you're right there. You've seen it too, whether you agree with me or not, but I'm sure you've seen this. Certain people are so impressionable. They have a need to be liked, a need to fit in. We hear the term peer pressure all the time.
Did you say peer pressure?
We have these people who are so impressionable. They need that sturdy backbone, that life coach, that partner. And when they don't have it, they go off the fucking rails. And I believe 100%, yes, I believe 100% that is the case with Miss Elizabeth. Because, much like Piers just said, you can say all the things you want about Randy's obsessiveness that you want, but she wasn't this way when she was with him.
Yeah, but you got to also understand, and Kevin has been in that situation where women or men, always justify what happens to them in an abusive relationship. So they're always just like, oh, it's not his fault. Yeah, it's not his fault. I got him upset. Maybe if I do these things for him, he'll love me more. I mean, again, I don't know the woman. I'm just going off from my previous experience because she was always with him, still with him after the abusive, with the 2 black eyes and the busted lip. And then 2 days later, she was with him in the vehicle. I mean, usually that's a sign to leave. But of course, she's dependent on that guy. And he was probably intimidating her to stick around.
But you look at women of domestic violence relationships, a lot of the times they don't leave because they feel like they are the ones to blame. And as you said, Angel, what did I do to deserve this? I shouldn't have done that. I should have not said that. He was angry. I should have left him alone. That's living a life of walking on eggshells.
And then usually after the abuse, the guys always using the guy as an example. Baby, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I love you. I didn't mean to hurt you. That I was just so mad because of this. I mean, it's the same BS I heard many times in those type of abusive relationships.
I think another thing it comes down to is the sense of dependency. Now, we've talked about, several people reaching out to Randy, and by no means am I saying this is Randy's fault. That is not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is, Miss Elizabeth, like I said, sheltered lifestyle. She was with Randy, made all her decisions for her. And then when she went and got into this other world, you had people reaching out to Randy saying, hey, her parents, her father, her mother reaching out to Randy, please go save our daughter. And he's like, look, there's nothing I can do for her now. So when she finds herself in these situations, she has that sense of dependency. Like maybe she's thinking, oh, well, Randy's already made it clear he's not taking me back. Lex is all I have. What am I going to do without him? That sense of dependency is as bad a drug as anything else.
I agree.
And you know what, and I don't want this statement that I'm about to make to come out as
then don't make it.
No,
go ahead.
I don't want this to come out like I'm speaking ill of the deceased. But to me, from everything that I've seen and the research that I've done, and this is going to get me some heat with a lot of fans, and I understand that, and I'll take the heat. She was a weak person, and she was easily impressionable, and she was easily pushed to do things. You know what I mean? Like, to be honest, like from what I saw from her on screen and from everything that I've seen about her, research I've done about her as a person, and the interviews that I've seen about people speaking about her, she was just one of those people that would just never have an opinion of her own. Just, okay.
I don't think you should get much heat. I don't think anybody should fault you for that, because if you look at if you take away everything we've said and you just look at the timeline of her life and you look at the way things were mapped out, when she had that strong figure, her father, Randy, whoever, she didn't make these kind of decisions. When she was left to her own devices, that's where we start seeing Miss Elizabeth go off the rails. So I think what you said is based solely on fact. And if somebody can't see that, you might want to take another look at Miss Elizabeth's life.
And that's the thing. You look at Lex Luger. While I'm saying he didn't force her to take the drugs, but it's like he's now the main man in her life. He's like, hey, have a couple of these. Have a couple of these. Have a cup of this. Well, and she's like on, okay.
Well, look at it like when you're a child. Okay. When you're a child and, oh, mommy, my tummy hurts. I've got a headache, this, that. And your mom she goes to the medicine cabinet. She gets that Tylenol, the Motrin, the melatonin, whatever it is that's going to help you at the time. And she goes, okay, here you go. Take some of these. As a child, you don't ask what that is. You don't ask what it's going to do because somebody you love and somebody you trust gave it to you. I feel like she may have had that same sense with him. Oh, he loves me. He wouldn't give me anything that's going to hurt me. This is going to help me. This is good for me. I should do this. And I'm not blaming Lex for it.
But the problem is
the enabler. But when you're a child, you don't guess that shit. When it's coming from somebody you love and somebody that you have that dependency with, you don't question it. You just take it. I've done it when my mom gives me Tylenol.
But as a 40-year-old adult, right? As a 40-year-old adult, that she was 42 and she deceased, but let's say 40. As a fucking 40-year-old,
have we not seen grown adults with the minds of children?
We have. But
Okay.
But
are we saying that she was mentally not all there?
Not saying that at all.
But Pierce, real quick, the thing is that she's been in the business for a very long time, and it's not like she's just new to the drug scene in regards to being around people. She probably knew what she was taking. Even if Lex did provide her the drugs. Like I said, even if she wasn't taking them, she's seen him. She asked questions because I used to ask questions. Hey, what's that? That's oxycontin. Oh, what's that do? So she's not. I don't want to make it seem like she was oblivious to that drug culture during the time of pro wrestling. I think she was aware of what she was taking.
I think she was probably aware of what she was taking. I just don't think she was aware of the effects that it was going to take on her long term, which essentially killed her.
I would agree with that because anytime you have somebody who, like, if I'm taking drugs my whole life, and me and Angel are friends and we're hanging out, and I'm like, hey man, take this. It's going to make you feel great. I don't sit here and go, hey man, take this. It's going to give you kidney failure, liver disease. It's going to eat through your stomach lining or whatever the case may be. I don't say that kind of stuff. I just say, dude, this is going to make you feel absolutely amazing. I'm selling him on that drug. I'm not going to tell him all the bad shit it's about to do to him.
But they do that in those commercials when they do those Cialis. This might cause cancer.
You mean when the side effects are longer than the list of shit that it cures?
Yeah.
may cause suicidal thoughts, may cause diarrhea, may cause your stomach to explode.
May cause anal seepage. Yo, if that's not the scariest thing you've ever heard.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking gross. Seepage is almost as disgusting as discharge. But but look, anyway, I digress, guys. And I'm sorry that I'm laughing on such a serious topic, but man, to be honest, my heart goes out to Miss Elizabeth's family. I just think that she was not a strong enough person to make decisions on her own, and she was easily led.
Well, I guess it's time to get the show over then, brother.
Oh, yeah, hold on a sec.
Look. Cup of coffee.
Yeah, look, I just think, in my parting words on this topic, I'm just going to say, bless you, Kevin. But, I think, as I've said before, she was with Randy, who was someone who shielded her from it, said, no, don't fucking take that shit. Don't take that shit. Who knows what Randy was taking? From my understanding, he was on the gear for a long period of time. Was he on anything else? I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that. She didn't seem to be on that. And when you saw her on screen, she looked like someone who was of sound mind. When she was with Lex Luger, near the end of her life, she wasn't really on TV all that much, but you really did see a change, like in her. I don't know, when I saw her, the more recent, or her later stuff that she did in WCW, she did seem to be a little bit more off in the clouds, if that makes sense. Like when she was on camera, not the persona, but just like when she was on camera, like it was like she was just, the lights were on, but no one was home. And I just think that she was easily led. She was easily impressionable. And I think that's what ultimately led to her death.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what you said, Piers. My closing statements on this are: I do believe she was a weak-minded individual. There's really no other way to say it. I don't want to speak ill of the dead, especially when they're not here to defend themselves. But I honestly believe she was maybe not a weak-minded individual, but a very impressionable person. She wanted to make people happy. She wanted to be in the in crowd, be in the inner circle of things that happen. So I hate that we have to have this conversation, especially about somebody who was so beloved. And I wish there would have been a different ending to this story. But I do want to take the chance to say, for all of our viewers watching, if you or anybody you know is struggling with addiction, please, please, please speak up. Try to get help. There's many different tools to your disposal in the ways of getting help. And it doesn't make you look weak to ask for help. So if you or any of your friends are going through any type of situation where you think they may need help, please speak up about it, and don't be another statistic to people losing their lives to drugs.
Yeah, and my closing statement is that I agree with Kevin. I mean, if you have any issues, any problems, any, like I said, suicidal thoughts and stuff like that, reach out to somebody that could definitely help you. I mean, there's a lot of programs out there and they're all confidential. You don't have to worry about your, being exposed or anything. But if you do need to talk to somebody, there are programs to help you. Now, for me, I just think that Elizabeth was a great persona on TV. I think Lex Luger should have been held more accountable for her death. He should have served one of those Pierce's lines, hard times.
Times.
He should have definitely had some serious jail time, but apparently he didn't.
Who made that famous? Was that Randy Orton?
No.
It was Dusty Hogan.
Okay.
But again, I mean, he was a contributing factor to her death. And now that he found religion, I guess that's okay. But again, it's a sad story of a person who was beloved by fans, by millions of fans. And here at Wrestling with Tragedy, we just want to wish her rest in peace, Elizabeth.
Absolutely. And before we get out of here, guys, just one more huge thank you to A-Rock Designs for sponsoring the show and making these shows happen each and every week. If you want to get your hands on any custom merchandise, such as cups, hoodies, hats, keychains, t-shirts, make sure you hit up A-Rock Designs on Facebook, Ashley Rodriguez, and she can take care of all your orders. A big thank you to Mayon Belts, Eddie and Ira Williams, as they appear in all of our Facebook groups, Wrestling Review Society, Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance, and even Mayon Belts on Facebook. They have an amazing payment plan. If you're looking to start your belt collection or add to your belt collection, Eddie and Ira Williams have one of the best payment plans out there today, as low as $20 a paycheck until the belt is paid off, guys, and you're not going to be disappointed with your final product. And lastly, guys, we are getting a Pro Wrestling Tee store opened for Wrestling with Tragedy, where you can see amazing shirts like the Wrestling with Tragedy, maybe some Hard Times, maybe some Hillbilly Heroin shirts. Who knows what we're going to come up with. But until that happens, guys, feel free to go check out our merchandise at ProWrestlingTees.com/Wrestling Review Society and ProWrestlingTees.com/MWA World for all of our merchandise that we have at this current time. And be on the lookout for that Pro Wrestling Tees / Wrestling with Tragedy store to be open very, very soon.
And absolutely, and also definitely check us out on the Vince Russo Network. Definitely go there and share, subscribe, like. Definitely just follow us there. Definitely, this is a new venture for us, and we're excited. So we thank you, fans out there, for giving us.
Let Vince Russo know that the hottest thing on his brand is Wrestling with Tragedy.
And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestle Tragedy, and on Facebook at Facebook / Wrestle Tragedy. So head over there and make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. Show us some love, like, comment, subscribe to us everywhere and anywhere you can find Wrestling with Tragedy.
Angel, do you want to finish what you were going to say?
I was just going to
want to interrupt him.
Oh, absolutely. And if we get over 2,000 subscribers, Pierce Austin will definitely send you a koala.
Got to get that koala. With that being said, guys, we'll see you next week with another amazing show.